Friends of TV Agro, welcome to Agroparque Sabio Mutis Uniminuto Botanical Garden. Among the trades and popular traditions that we are defending here is the clandestine manufacture of liquors, a trade that affected the income of the Spanish crown and later the Republic. I invite you to visit this place. I remind you that we are located between the municipalities de La Mesa and Tena in Cundinamarca. Welcome! We have documented this trade of clandestinely manufacturing liquor to the maximum, and here we manufacture liquor such as brandy and rum, with the ancestral techniques that we have been able to document. This trade of manufacturing clandestine liquors was a crime for the state, but it was not a crime for the peasants who made it. Since manufacturing the liquor helped the family economy with the difficulties that sometimes exist in the countryside, the bottles of brandy were used to exchange it for some necessary products in the family basket. The whole family was linked to the clandestine manufacture of liquor, a kind of mafia culture, and women were great collaborators in this crime, without victims as we insisted. Because the women made the food or the women were the ones who got into the prisons, weekend festivities, the weekend markets, or the main roads, and they were great sellers of liquor and enemies of the income police, for which there was a need to create in the 20th century given the amount of liquor that it was manufactured clandestinely, and naturally affected the income of the state. The state was an intangible being, and thus the peasants did not pay much attention to it, because among other aspects they did not consider it a sin either, and they did not see that they were harming anyone. Thus the growth of these places arose. The children were also great collaborators in this trade. Here you can see, for example, the children with the horns. They touched the horn when they saw someone suspicious. Specifically the rental police when they were approaching, and the trade required a lot of discretion, was usually close to the ravines. In one place the must was prepared, or the juice of the cane or honey was fermented, and in another place it was distilled in order to have a defense before the judge for the moment of the capture, since we were manufacturing this liquor. This is the trade that we have here in the Agroparque, and as I was saying, it is very well documented and people can come to see the place. They can schedule a visit to make the rum or brandy and learn about the entire process of this practically extinct trade. Questions that are asked here many times is that, if this liquor is of poor quality since it can affect health. In the time of Mutis the same problem arose, and he told them that no liquor was bad, all liquors are good for well used. And nowadays the adulteration of liquor is sometimes confused with the liquor from these stills. No. Adulterated liquor is one thing, and the artisanal liquor that is made in the mountains, the Pacific, or right here in La Mesa y Tena, since it is a very good quality liquor. The problem is its excessive consumption, and also another question that they do are the degrees that we obtain. We extract 70 degrees by this method and we reduce it until it gives us a liquor of 32 degrees, that is. This Tena hacienda belonged to the Jesuit parents until 1767, when King Carlos III expelled them. It was characterized by having large sugarcane crops, and it provides us not only with honey, panela and sugar but also with brandy. The large crops that were on the Tena hacienda allowed Mr. Clemente Alguacil to be a supplier of liquors to Santa Fe de Bogotá until 1819. We have continued with the panelera tradition and naturally with the artisanal or clandestine tradition of the liquor that was manufactured in this Tequendama region. Rum or brandy are made with honey, water, corn flour or wheat flour. A process is carried out by adding water and honey every 3 days, and after 20 or 25 days we make the determination. Since if we are going to make brandy it will add aniseed, and if we are going to make rum we have to put pineapple, banana, guava, Isabelita grape and leg gelatin. The initial fermentation of the rum is done here in these clay pots, and when we have fermented for the required time, we arrive at the distillation process which is carried out in this pot. Here we add it, then the stove is lit. This bucket is filled with water and it goes through the heating process. Then there is a thermal shock and the liquor comes out. Then we take this to some barrels, there we ferment it, and leave it for a certain time. So we have the artisanal liquor. What we are doing here is not requires no complicated formula. This is a very traditional profession and one which we have tried to maintain in this region, since it is really closely linked to the region's tradition. In 1653, the year that Fray Cristobal de Torres opened the Nuestra Señora residence del Rosario, in that same year he founded a small town here on the banks of the Bogotá River, finally called Las Mesitas del Colegio, and in that same year Fray Cristobal de Torres asked the king to please sanction all the people who found in this region making liquor from the land, that is to say, the liquor that did not pay taxes to the state, and we know from that moment that the tradition of making clandestine liquor was deeply rooted in the region, and thus continued until the year 1920 or 1925 when the trade disappeared, or how far the documentation we have obtained about the clandestine manufacture of liquors has come. The manufacture of the liquor was done in this way. In one part it was fermented, and in the other part it was distilled. It was never fermented, and it was distilled in the same place. Why? Because when the authorities arrived, they naturally entered destroying what was there. They first broke the still, because it was made of clay, or if it was made of metal they damaged it. But they kept breaking all the objects that were inside the still. The place where it was fermenting had to be left out, because the police were going to stop us. We had to get a lawyer, and he would tell us to deny it, and when we denied it, the judge would ask us why we have a ferment far from the place. We would say that it is not ours, we are going to deny it. And so naturally all doubts are resolved in favor of the defendant. So there are many of the criminal proceedings that are in the archives of the country's courts. There is that alternative or facility to be able to evade the responsibility of manufacturing a clandestine liquor. But if I do it all in one place, this will be the main proof in order for them to condemn me. I have to leave a path to evade, and it was like that, in which in this still there is an arrow, which says that the liquor was made in hidden places in the bushes, far from the authorities and evading any clue. For example, when the smoke or anise came out and the smell was felt from a long distance, tires or eucalyptus were burned to lose control of the rental police, which was there to put us in jail. That may be one of the conditions, that he had to have the alembic to be able to save us from bail, or from punishment, after they arrested us and by denying all responsibility before the judge. He could give me 8 months or settle with 4 months, perhaps with presentations every 8 days or with a fine or bail, but the truth is that for the manufacture of liquor, there are many committed people in the country, as evidenced by the researchers who have worked on this topic and the number of processes that still remain in the courts. Friends of TV Agro, thank you very much for having visited us, and we are waiting for you to jointly make a liquor sack here at Agroparque Sabio Mutis, Uniminuto Botanical Garden. We are located between the municipalities of La Mesa and Tena in Cundinamarca. It would be a pleasure to have you here and to be able to share all these traditions and legends that exist around this crime, which was considered as such by the state, the treasury, the king and the republic, but not by the people. Since they did not consider it a crime or sin, it was only an alternative of economic defense to survive in the field. Thank you very much, and we hope